The spin-off to one of the biggest and most influential anime of the modern era, My Hero Academia Vigilantes debuts tomorrow. And if you're someone who's on the fence about watching this series, or maybe haven't even heard of it, today I want to give you a sort of crash course, a beginner's guide, if you will, completely free of spoilers of course, giving my brief thoughts on the series in order to help you determine whether or not you should check out this anime. MHA Vigilantes is a 126-chapter story following the perspective of Koichi Himawari, a 19-year-old who tried and failed to make it as a pro hero and now lives his life as a minor do-gooder, helping old ladies across the street, giving directions to the lost, and very menial tasks like that. Hardly someone you could call a hero in the conventional sense, at least until he's recruited by Knuckle Duster into the world of vigilantism. We'll talk about how the series goes about handling this core concept in a bit, but it's actually quite the solid premise on the face of it. As someone who read Vigilantes just as the series was coming to a close, the prospect of an anime adaptation, and one that seems to be getting the care that this one is pretty exciting stuff. Now, I assume a certain level of visual refinement when I make that statement, mainly because the trailers for this anime have looked really stunning. Aside from the My Hero Academia movies, it's been a little while since I've been this hopeful and optimistic about the aesthetic of a trailer in regards to anything My Hero related. The heavy-handed line weight especially makes it pretty distinct from how the anime for the main series portrays itself 90% of the time, and I think that this is a good thing. Not only does it help with distinguishing it as a spin-off, but it's also a design element that I'm just pretty in favor of generally. Only time will tell how each episode is handled on the topic of animation or flashy sakuga, but I really am hopeful about this anime's presentation, which is always a good thing. Back on the subject of this story's quality itself, Vigilantes is kind of a mixed bag depending on who you ask. Naturally, it's going to garner comparisons to the series that it's a spin-off of, and I don't really think that's a problem. However, I will say if you're expecting this story, whether you consume it as an anime or manga to be as gripping and quality as the main MHA manga, you're probably going to be a bit disappointed. Now, there is a not so small subsect of the MHA community, haters included, that ironically might find this series to be more their speed, but we'll talk about them in a second. The reason I recommend a lowering of expectations for the general audience when it comes to watching this anime is pretty simple. In most regards, I consider it a step or two behind what Horikoshi was able to craft himself. While I do really enjoy characters like Koichi and Knuckle Duster, and even Popstep to a degree, even as the standouts of the manga, they just don't compare to the likes of Deku, All Might, Shigaraki, Bakugo, Endeavor, or many of the other well-written characters littered throughout that manga. Despite this fact though, I do still recommend fans of My Hero Academia give this series a shot for a few reasons. One, even something not as good as My Hero Academia can still be pretty damn good. I know I just harped on the comparison point and kind of laid into Vigilantes a little bit when doing so, but I mainly went about it that way to properly set people's expectations. If you go into this anime and come away from it more happy with the end product than the main series, great. But even if you don't, you knew what to expect coming in and still got a pretty enjoyable watch. At least, that's my hope. 2. Vigilantes does a really good job of fleshing out the My Hero mythos in a way that I think all spin-off stories should strive to. In fact, arguably its greatest moments come from scenes that include mainline characters like Aizawa and give them a backstory so good that many fans wish it was in the original manga full stop. So from a holistic standpoint, I think fans of this universe have quite a bit to gain by watching this. And 3, for some odd reason, as I alluded to, Vigilantes has this strange ability to attract MHA haters and give them a pretty good time. I honestly wouldn't be able to say for sure what it is about this manga that scratched that itch for them, but I've seen it countless times, enough to know that it is just a general phenomenon surrounding this spin-off manga. Someone who was ambivalent towards the main series or even straight up disliked it, trying this spin-off and just getting exactly what they expected in the first place is a pretty common occurrence in my experience. Maybe it's because Knuckle Duster is closer to the Batman figure they wanted Deku to be, or maybe they aren't thrown off by Koichi starting with a quirk and just developing that instead of gaining a quirk throughout the series and actually becoming more powerful not only through quirk progression, but more quirk development. But regardless of the reason, the more fans of this story, the merrier, I think. I say this all to say, Vigilante still has its own appeal outside of a straight-up comparison to its predecessor. That being said, there is one aspect alone, in which I think Vigilantes is up there with the big dogs, and between you and me, bites harder than most of them. And that's with its final battle. Now, I won't go into the context of it at all because spoilers, duh. but I will say if you're a manga purist or someone who will consider picking the manga up after the first season reaches its conclusion, this is the one facet of the manga I'm okay with bigging up like this completely and utterly shamelessly. I said it when I first read the fight and I'll say it now. Despite every piece individually not amounting to much when compared to Horikoshi's original work, that final battle somehow is a top 5 MHA fight for me, period, and would be top 10 for many people a bit less passionate as me in regards to certain structural elements of the battle. All in all, I think My Hero Academia Vigilantes is an anime that anybody who's enjoyed the main series should check out, and even those who didn't might benefit from giving it a shot to see if it can work its strange magic on you. It provides a considerable amount of world building that makes the mainline MHA series better, and even on its own, stands as a decent story I'm happy to have read. I look forward to watching this anime alongside all of you that decide to continue, and if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, whether it be comprehensive guides or vigilante specific content, subscribe and hit the bell, as I'll definitely be making more of both. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.